Coming up on episode 103 of the Creative Writing Podcast, I'm interviewing Jenny Melrose all about launching.
I can't go back to sleep, it's almost light. These restless thoughts have kept me up again tonight.
Well, hello and welcome to Creative Writing. This is your home. It's your home if you're a writer, blogger, or creative who wants to build an online platform without being smarmy. So in that vein, today we're talking about something that's really hard, and we all have to do it if we're writing books or doing courses or even doing like a website or whatever you're doing. At some point there's a launch for it, which means you're sending it out into the world, hopefully with much fanfare and acclaim. That sounded really nice. I just came up with that on the top of my head. But when you're launching whatever it is you're launching, it's important. It's weighty. It's something that can make or break you. Now, I should say this. It's not going to break you. It won't break you. You're not going to fail because you mess up your launch, because I've messed up plenty of launches before or just had underwhelming launches. But the better your launch, the better chance of success that you have, at least right out of the gate. And it can really impact what happens next. So Jenny and I are going to talk all about that. And I'm doing a webinar with her this week, and it's all about doing challenges, because this is what she did when she first started launching online courses, which was really recent, like last year, and she's had some really profitable launches. She had no list for the kind of courses she was building. And so she actually used challenges to build her list enough to launch products. And it's going to be a really great free training. I've had a peek at the course itself and been in there. It's got great info. The course is actually that she's promoting is put together with her. It's Jenny and Becky from yourmodernfamily.com. And they do a really great job inside of the course. And I know the training is going to be killer. And a lot of you guys have talked about wanting to do challenges. So even if you're like, I don't know that I can buy another course this year, I will tell you, first of all, it's really good. So if you're thinking about launching, it's a really good course. But you're also going to learn a lot from the workshop. So you definitely want to sign up for that. And you can do that by going to creativewriting.com/Jenny. Jenny. So we're going to talk about launches in just a second, but I want to thank our sponsor, again, Ambition Ally. And if you didn't listen to my interview with Ambition Ally's founder last week in the last episode 102, I talked with Natalie Lucier all about her company, her values, and some of the cool features of Pop-Up Ally Pro. So if you want to check them out, if you haven't already, do that while they're sponsoring the show. Give back some love since they have been a supporter for us. And you can do that by going to ambitionally.com/Kirsten. So a little bit about Jenny before we get into the interview. She has been blogging, I don't know the exact number of years, but has had a really successful blog over at the Melrose Family. It used to be the New York Melrose Family, which is actually how I first heard of her. And then she moved to North Carolina. So it's now the Melrose Family. And she talks about home stuff and used to be a teacher, actually. And so is really great at teaching. So when she transitioned over into starting a podcast, the Influencer Entrepreneur Podcast, and you can actually hear me on that, she started a whole new website, jennymelrose.com. And that's where she started launching the courses and doing the challenges to build things. So she has worked effectively with brands. She's a really great teacher and has, just dove right in, used challenges to build up her list, and is just kicking butt and taking names. So her podcast is great. Really helpful if you're trying to work with brands, if you consider yourself an influencer. So it's more kind of on the blogger side of things, but I'm always finding that a lot of the tools cross over since we are all about building those platforms, right? We're connecting with audiences. You just might be trying to build a blog versus trying to get readers for your book. Or maybe you're doing both, because I feel like these days, a lot of things have a lot of crossover. Like we all need kind of the same tools, and we just might be tweaking how we're using them. So we're going to talk all about launches now, and you can check out Jenny and where to find her in the show notes. But I really hope you join us for the live workshop this week. I will be on there as well, taking notes, because I did a challenge last year and plan to do more this year. But she has got some really great info for us. So let's go into the interview now with Jenny Melrose. On this episode of Creative Writing, I have got Jenny Melrose from the Melrose Family and JennyMelrose.com and the Influencer Entrepreneur Podcast, which I was on recently, honored to be on. So welcome, Jenny.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm really excited too. So we are going to be talking about launching, which is a question I get a lot because it's something I feel like it's just hard and you have to do it. Like no matter what you're doing in this space, like I feel like unless you're just literally writing blog posts and like that's all you're doing, if you're doing anything else, it requires a launch and it's stressful and hard and we don't all know how to do it. And we've seen people fail and we failed. So I'm very excited to do this tonight. And then also we've got a live training coming up this week. So tell me a little bit, I kind of explained it, but I'd like to hear it in your words, like what we're going to talk about in the training.
Sure. So the training is going to be about building challenges. So one of the things that I have found that helped me tremendously in growing my list, but also growing a list that was targeted and primed to buy, was implementing challenges. And challenges, if you look on Facebook, I'm sure you scroll down past probably 20 of them a day. They're just very popular. But the reason behind it is because if they're done correctly, the results can be amazing. I've definitely seen tremendous growth because of them.
Awesome. And I know we have people who are interested, and I ran one last year. And I knew starting out, because I know we'll get to this talk, and I've been in your course, I know you talk about this, I didn't have a product in mind, and I knew that. I just wanted to run a challenge, and so there was something people kept asking me, so I was like, I know this is not going to be a moneymaker. This is like, I want to run a challenge to run a challenge. And so I did that, and it was great. But then at the end, it did feel like, even though I knew, like, I don't have a product, it was like, what's next? And I just have this like little Facebook group still sitting there. And it just felt like a missed opportunity. So we'll get into that, I know, in the training and then probably some tonight. But I would like to go, deep into launches, as deep as we can in like 30 minutes. But, how did you get into kind of teaching about launches and creating a course around launches?
So it's funny because I first launched my first product over on the Melrose Family. I created a meal planning ebook and I put out this great ebook, and I was so excited. I didn't have a clue as far as a launch. It fell flat on its face. It's the whole idea that if you build it, they will come. Yeah, no, that doesn't happen.
We wish that happened, right?
Wouldn't that be nice? But no, there was no strategic plan that was behind it. So I just kind of put it out there, and then I am most well known for working with brands. I get a ton of questions consistently about how do you do it. It's about 50% of my income over on the Melrose Family. So I kept getting these questions and thought, okay, I need to pivot. I need to start teaching. I was a former teacher for 9 years in the inner city, and I felt like I needed to get back to it. So in September of 2016, I launched jennymelrose.com, and it was launched with the purpose of putting out this e-course for working with brands. The only problem was I didn't have a list. Literally a list of 0. It was crazy to think that it could happen. But I put a challenge in place. I think we launched the site September 1st. There was a challenge that was up and running within 3 days. Wow. And I keep my challenges evergreen. They're not open and close, so that it's easy for people to kind of come in when they need to. Within a month, we had over 1,000 people sign up for the list. And then I had my first launch, and I did over $30,000 my first launch. And that was within like a month and a half of launching with a list of 0. So, and I largely attribute that to having a strategic plan that also incorporated challenges into it.
That's really amazing. I mean, we hear those kinds of stories, but I feel like, I don't know, sometimes they seem really out of reach. And like, I know you and I followed you for a while, and it's neat to hear like, you're like, no, this really can happen. And so I think, also you're attributing it to strategy, not like, oh, I just lucked into it, and you did have another blog to build from. But I know, as I'm sure you can attest to too, if you're building a blog that's based on like family or food or something else, and then you switch to teaching, yeah, you'll get some crossover, but it's not as much as people might think. Like people are like, oh, you just had this giant list, people doing this anyway and all this traffic, and you just switched. And so it was really easy. It's still really hard. And I feel like challenges too, you have to kind of launch them, right? Like you have to promote them. So what did you do to promote the challenge that you did to get 1,000 people in a month?
Well, I had a couple different strategies that I actually put into place. So for me, it was primarily, one of the biggest things that I did is that I found Facebook groups where I knew my audience was. And the first thing I did was make sure that I read the rules of every single Facebook group. And I'm talking about like those closed Facebook groups where people kind of create these great communities, and they're amazing because Facebook's algorithm right now isn't affecting them. So people don't have things hidden from them when something is posted. But I would go in and I would search for things that I knew I more or less had. That's where my expertise was. That's where I was comfortable. That's what I was going to teach about. And I would search for those things and look to see what the questions were. And I would answer their question. And then once I was done giving this paragraph long answer, I would say, I also, just so you guys know, I have a free 10-day challenge. Feel free to join in. It actually walks you through this, and this. Love to have you. And I just left it at that. So it was me helping, answering the question, and then the challenge was more like an additional resource. And by doing that, it just it let me show my expertise. It let people feel comfortable with me. It didn't feel spammy. And I actually have had administrators that have reached out to me since then and been like, so I'm just going to direct all my questions that come up about this specific topic to you. Is that okay? And I'm like, yep, that's fine. Just tag me.
I love that, because I think there's so many, everybody's like, use Facebook groups, but it's really hard. And I have a Facebook group that I love. And you guys listening are probably all in it. And if you're not, you can go to createifwriting.com/community to join. But I just had to post something today, like, hey, I'm serious. Like, I'm not just going to delete your post. I'm going to block you as well if you keep posting things in there, because that's a big mistake people make. And I've had people join my group and like literally 30 seconds later have posted like this 4-paragraph thing that obviously they had copied and pasted, and they were literally joining a group, pasting something on the wall, joining a group, pasting something on the wall. And back then, I actually used to take the time and I emailed the person and tried to explain about like strategy and Facebook groups. And they were like, sure, that's great. They did the same thing the next day, like literally the same post. And I kicked them out and was like, I don't understand, but good luck to you. You're not going to have success doing this, but it's hard because you're like, what do you do? And then they have those promo day threads and nobody does anything with those. Every now and then I do, and I actually find some great resources. I've connected with some great people in my community, but most people don't take the time to do that unless I'm in a couple groups where they require it. And they're like, if you don't do this and we got to go back and see you haven't liked anything or commented, you're out. Like, we're going to kick you out of the group, which I kind of love. But otherwise, it's really hard to know what to do. So I like how you handled that. Because the other thing I see people doing is answering the question like, the answer is in my challenge. Here's the link.
Yes. And that's exactly what I don't teach. I make sure that it's perfectly, like, you have to answer the question. You're not in a community to just put your link down and be like, oh, here's this article. No. Even if you answer the question and then you say, if you need additional resources, or if you can, I have more information if you have more questions around this topic, even though I already answered your question. I mean, it's just so important to make sure that the questions are getting answered, because like you said, it's going to come off really spammy, and people don't trust you if they just see a link. They're more likely to trust you if you can actually answer their question first and then provide a resource.
Awesome. So that's a really good intro too, because they already are kind of joining your list if they join it from that challenge, knowing like, hey, this girl knows her stuff. Then they do the challenge, and yours is a 10-day, you said evergreen. So they get through that. And then do you have, is your product that you're using, like, I'm sure it's different for different products, but is it open cart all the time as well? Like evergreen, so they get through the challenge and then they have some sales things, or how are some different ways, or is it just one way that you kind of run the launches?
So what I actually have it set up is that a challenge is part of my sales funnel. So normally in a sales funnel, you'd have your opt-in up top, and then, coming down into your sales funnel, you've got something else. Well, for me, it's a challenge on every aspect of my business in both businesses. I have multiple sales funnels running on the Melrose Family because we have multiple products in a lot of different categories, because we're lifestyle, because of course I couldn't choose.
Yep. Same. High five.
Exactly.
The people who don't choose lifestyle.
Exactly. So with that sales funnel, what I actually do in all of my sales funnels is I have a tripwire. So the tripwire, when I talk about a tripwire, I mean like a product that's $20 or less. Normally it sits like $9 or $15. It's normally anything from like an ebook to maybe like a one-off video training. And that is evergreen. They can always purchase that. And the reason that I have something there before I have like my bigger product, which is normally an e-course for me, is because it's easier for people to hand over money once they've already done it before. They already are customers, so they're more likely to do it. I actually got this whole idea of understanding my sales funnel a little bit better. I read the book by Perry Marshall, The 80-20 Rule of Sales and Marketing. And he talks about how 80% of your income is going to come from 20% of your list. And it's so true. Like, I look back, I was just actually at Everything Food conferences. I was speaking in Salt Lake a couple weeks ago, and I was sitting at breakfast with someone. We're going back and forth. I'm talking, and she's actually a student of, or she's a member of my membership site. And someone's across the table, and they're like, "Oh, do you guys work together on your site? Da da da." I said, "Oh no." I said, "She's actually a member of my membership site." The girl that so my member turns to me and goes, "And a student of your working with brands e-course, and a student of your sequence to launch course." And she just starts listing off all the things that she's purchased. And I'm like, there you go. 80-20 rule. It's amazing.
Wow. That's really neat. So I think the hesitation is like, I was talking to somebody today and they're like, I don't know if I should mention my books and my free challenge. I'm like, yes, you should. But I think the hesitation is like, people are scared, sales is just, there's a block, right? There's just a roadblock for most people. So selling anything is kind of hard. So what does it look like then to have a tripwire and then another product? Because I think people, if they're like, I can't sell my $5 Amazon book, are going to be like, I can't certainly also try to sell a course to somebody. So what does that look like in terms of the tripwire? Like, where does it fall into place in the funnel, and then versus the bigger giant, like not giant, but like a multi-$100 product maybe? How does that kind of work together?
So the way that I do it is that I teach that when you create a challenge, it's aligned to your product, and your tripwire is aligned to your product, so that your challenge, the purpose of the challenge is to show them that the next step is to purchase your product, whether it's your tripwire or whether it's going to be your larger e-course that's hundreds of dollars or whatever it might be. Even if it's coaching or services or a larger like physical product, maybe you sell software, that something of that nature. But your purpose in that challenge is not to overwhelm them and give a ton of information and expect them to have this gigantic, like, for example, like you wouldn't have a 10-day challenge to pay off your debt. Like, that would be insanity. But what you might do is you would do a get prepared to pay off your debt. And you would have 10 days of explaining the different things that they're going to need to do. And within that, each day you're having them have homework. So again, former teacher, so everything for me is a mini lesson, and then you go into homework, which gives them a call to action. So with that, it holds them accountable, and they're doing the basics. So by the time they're done with the basics, they're like, yes, I'm ready to go. Look at this. I got all the way through these 10 days. What's next? And that's where the tripwire comes in. I always do a bonus day. So if it's a 10-day challenge, the bonus day 11. If it's a 5-day challenge, a bonus day 6. And I say, you guys did awesome. I'm so impressed by all the results that I'm seeing in the challenge. You did so much hard work. Here's the next step of what we have. We have for example, over on the Melrose Family, I have an essential oil e-course. The tripwire is an essential oil ebook, and the challenge is a chemical freedom challenge. So it all is aligned. And that bonus day, I say, hey, so you did a great job of starting to eliminate the chemicals. Here's a resource that's actually going to show you more ways that you can do it, and DIYs and how you can use your oils to replace even more chemicals in your home.
Cool.
So it's that next tripwire of trying to get them to kind of trip over it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and then like, what's the time frame for when you might launch something else? Does it just depend when you have a launch, or is there certain like, okay, you got to wait 2 weeks or 2 days? Like, what does that look like? I know, I'm sure that's different for the product and for person, but.
Yes. So over at the Melrose Family with the Essential Oil e-course, we actually have it set up so that once they go through the challenge, they get an email 2 weeks later to pitch the e-course. And it kind of like, I use ConvertKit. So everything is, well, if they purchase this and they go here and if they get tagged with this, so they know what emails are getting sent out to them. Over on Jenny Melrose, because I do open and close cart where it's not an evergreen product, it's just whenever my launch starts, they get invited into the launch sequence of the activities that I plan for a launch.
Awesome. Okay. And do you see, I mean, I know the monetary difference is different depending on the price of the courses, but do you see a difference in terms of conversion for like the evergreen versus open and closed?
Yes. So far, I have seen open and close just creates that sense of urgency.
Okay.
I have people they will literally wait until the very last day, last couple hours. And then when there's a problem technology-wise, they all freak out because, of course, they waited to the last 15 minutes and cart isn't working. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you.
That's me every time. That's totally. I always like when I send those like the last minute emails, I'm like, I'm talking to you, which is really talking to me because I'm that person. I'm the person I wait until like 11:55 p.m. because I'm like, I need to like have that sense of like, I'm going to regret it if I buy it or I'm going to regret it if I don't. Like down to the wire, here we are. Like that's me. Every time.
See, and that's so funny because for me, I'm the exact opposite. Like I go to a webinar and the webinar isn't even done and I've already purchased. Like I've
done that a few times too, but usually
it's all the bonuses.
Yeah. Usually it's somebody like I already know, like I go in and I'm like, this is the webinar I'm going to buy. Like I had one like that. And I've had a few other things where I know ahead of time. I got something recently, Jason Zook, who spoke at the Profitable Blogging Summit. I'm just a huge fan of his, and he launched something last fall called Buy My Future, which is everything he's ever made and everything he ever will make. But it's pretty pricey, right? And I was like, at the time, I was like, I want this so bad because I love everything he does. He's just a creative genius. I'm not even in his niche. It doesn't even matter. It's just good stuff. And so I couldn't buy, and I'd emailed him and was like, I love that you're doing this. This is so fun and creative. Like just, he's always doing stuff like that. So when it came open again, like he sent an email first to people who had been interested but not bought last time. And I was like, buy, because I had the money. Like that time I did have the money. And so I went in and bought, and I was so excited that it happened. So like, there's a few times where I know immediately, but a lot of times it is that sense of like, you just have to wait. And the urgency, yeah, it works. So, but I always, I hate to, I don't know if you've ever bought something that you regretted later. Like I want to always make sure I'm not like letting the urgency push people to something they don't want, because I don't want people unhappy with what they buy. And so I think, I always try to phrase it that way. Like you already know, like, whether this is the right thing for you. You just need like that push, and here's the push. Like, you have 5 minutes. Like there's the push. So jump out of the nest, baby bird, if it's time. But have you, in the course of all the launching and the things you've done through both of the sites, have you had any courses or not even courses, but just launches that were kind of underwhelming and didn't meet your expectations?
Yeah, the very first one over on the Melrose Family, definitely. I mean, that was what caused me to really look at how I was going to set up my launch once I did put jennymelrose.com out there, and I knew I was going to have a new e-course. That first time I was creating the ebook, and it was like crickets. And yes, oh my goodness, yes. And I think that was it, and I was extremely nervous, I think too, with the first launch of working with brands because of the failure of that that meal planning ebook. And I do feel like if I actually put it all into a sequence and had all these strategies in place, it would have done better. I didn't have a plan when I initially launched it. So yes, absolutely.
So what can you do if you find yourself even mid-launch? Because I know I've seen things and I've heard you talk about that mid-launch or after, even if you have an underwhelming, like poor performing launch, can you fix it? Like what do you do? Do you just burn it down and like we'll start again, or can you work with it?
I think I personally, I have to set dates, especially when it's, if it's open and close in particular, and I stick to those dates. And even if after I did the first launch did amazing. And then the second launch, it still did well, but we changed some things to it and it didn't do as well. And I'm the kind of person that when I set my goals for everything, I'm not looking to stay the same. Like I want to double it.
Yeah.
I just, that's just crazy like that. So for me, when I was looking at the numbers, I'm like, oh my God, why is it not doing well? What did I do wrong? I started listening to all these different podcasts and it wasn't the podcast. And once Cart closed and I realized that, hey, it was the things that you had in place. Like people, you're getting a new audience and you have to find a way to get in front of them. Like to be able to do Facebook Live or do more webinars. People have to see you. And I know that, and I felt like the first time I did webinars, the webinars were amazing. The second time, they still did really well, but it wasn't as well. And then when we put Facebook Live into place, it was like a whole nother ballgame.
So that helped, like that solved the issue and kind of took things up to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
And we meet. Yes.
I know we're just in such like a, world of people wanting to see you. Like I feel like a lot of times the webinars, I mean, I don't know, some of the people that are really huge that do the webinars where you never see them, like if they're already huge, like, they have this big list, they're going to do well. But I think the people who are really kind of coming hot out of the gate are the people who are like, screw that. No, this is me. This is, what we look like. I'm a real person. This is not a pre-taped thing that I'm trying to pretend like is live. I think people are kind of smelling out all that fake stuff. And so for people who are, afraid to do live videos or webinars, like I think it can be, I don't know, it can be hard to jump off and do those, but it's so worth it. And people really are very forgiving, especially, last night I was supposed to have a live workshop and I have a baby who's colicky and teething. She's not colicky, but she's just been crying for like 2 days. And I started to get really nervous because I'm like, okay, I've got this workshop that's supposed to be live. It's going to be an hour at least, or an hour and a half with questions. And I don't know if this is going to happen. And I had this one window of time in the afternoon and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do my slides. I'm going to record it and I'm just going to put it up there and it's not going to be live. And my face wasn't on there because of the tech I was using. I couldn't switch back and forth. And it made me kind of like super stressed out, but it worked fine. Like people were like, I was just honest too. I was like, hey, this is supposed to be live. It's pre-recorded. So here's where you can ask your questions. Like I'll be here and you can ask them. And people were super like, they didn't care, they just want the honesty. They don't want the BS. Like, they don't want someone who's faking a live webinar. Like, thanks for showing up. There's not really like a chat that's there. So, if you're hearing this and you're like, oh shoot, I can't launch anything because I can't do video. Yes, you can. You can. It doesn't have to be a webinar, like Facebook Lives, like anything where you can be a real person, I think will set you apart miles ahead. So that's great to hear that worked like that for you.
Yes. I think honestly for me, the second launch where it wasn't doing so well, we didn't really know what the issue was. And then we put Facebook Live in place for the last one. And I took my challenge and I did it live over 5 days before we launched the course. And during the second day, my dog and my now 4-year-old went bananas, and I was live and they were underneath my desk, both of them. She was kicking the desk and he has a habit. He sounds like, what is that guy's name from Star Wars? Jabba the Hutt. He sounds like when he talks, like my dog, literally. So that's all you can hear. And you now see the video is going up and down every time my kid kicks the desk. And I'm like, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do that. And I got off of it and I wanted to burst into tears. And I called someone, one of that I knew was on it, my project manager. And I said, I don't know what to do. Should I just delete it? She goes, no, go and look at the comments. And I went and looked, and everyone, so engaged, so, supportive, like, oh my God, if you can do it, I can do it. Like, I can't believe you were able to keep your concentration through that. She totally get it. My kids the same way. When people actually see a real person and understand that you're going through the same things that they're going through, it just makes it that much easier to purchase because they understand and see that you actually have gone through what they've gone through.
That's awesome. I love that story. I love it. Yeah, I had a moment like a few minutes before we got on. I was recording like a solo session, and my husband put in office doors, but like the best ones we could find had the glass, and I was like, oh no, but that was just what we had. And so like I see my son, he's holding up a stuffed animal that I think the dog ate. And I'm like trying to like wave him away so I don't have to like stop what I'm doing. It's just, I mean, yeah. Real life, it just happens. And I think it does make people more human. It doesn't make you look unprofessional. It makes you look, now I have seen people be unprofessional, but that's a whole other thing. But there's something to the realness of just getting to see behind the curtain and see what you're able to manage. And I think that stands like a testament to the fact that you can do this whole launch thing with a 4-year-old and a dog like fighting under your desk. That's amazing. So yeah, so if you're listening, you're like, there's no way I can do Facebook Live. I think now, after hearing that, you totally can. just do it. Just do it. Yes. So in a launch, I feel like there's so many moving parts, and this is kind of where I want to like end up. If somebody is, I mean, I feel like there's tech to deal with. There's, different things, like if you're doing a challenge first, like whatever it is that you're doing to kind of get people engaged and excited, the moving parts, what do you feel like are the essential things? Like, I know there's different kinds of launches, but if people are going to just narrow down and focus and do like their first one, what are some of the essential, again, I know it's different per product, but like what would you recommend be kind of the essentials?
I would definitely say you have to be from as soon as possible is find a way to engage with your audience, whether it is a welcome email sequence that is over time that kind of introduces you, whether it is a challenge, whether you're going to put a Facebook community that's closed as part of what it is that you do so that you can engage them there. You have to give people an opportunity to know you. There's this, I'm sure everyone has seen this video at some point, but they were talking about, I think it's Simon, I forget his last name right now, but he talks about the whole idea behind Apple and how people don't purchase because of what it is. They purchase because of the why behind it. Why was it why was it created? Why was it made? Why did you put this in place? And I think if you can describe that and explain that based upon your personality and your personal experiences, and people can see that authentically, it just makes it so much easier for people to purchase. I honestly don't believe that everyone that has purchased my course that is a student has purchased because they absolutely needed it. I think a lot of them purchased because they saw themselves in me. They saw what I had overcome. I mean, I had a site that was there for 6 years. It was my side hustle. I was working in an inner city school district with 2 babies. And I still managed to be able to, retire more or less from teaching, which is still crazy to say to this day. But they see that I was able to do it, and they understand my why of why I've created the course. My purpose of creating my courses is so that you can get to spend time with your kids if that's what you want to do, or get to go and travel if that's what you want to do, because I've done it. Like, I've been there and I know what it's going to take, and I want to be able to walk them through that. And being a teacher gives me the opportunity to just be able to really make sure that I come across and I can explain it on multiple levels based on everybody's learning style. And I think that's where I partner with Becky Mansfield a lot of times, because Becky is also a former teacher, and we both have that understanding of how to portray, the strategies and steps that you need in order to accomplish something.
That's awesome. Well, if you want more of this, more of Jenny's teaching, and want to specifically get down and dirty with challenges, you've got to join us on the live training. So there may be dogs, there may be children, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. I feel like for me, like a Facebook Live is where I let that happen. And the setup workshops where I know it's going to be an hour, I'm like, someone get my kids and take them far away, take the dog away too. Like, we're turning all the stuff off. It's going to happen. But yes, you guys can join us for that. And that's just the sign up for that's going to be at createifwriting.com/Jenny. And you can sign up to join us. I'm going to be there as well, learning, because I want to do more challenges this year that actually have a purpose. Now that I've done one and loved it, and felt like it needed like an ending that wasn't there. Now I'm ready to take the next step and actually do some challenges that will lead somewhere. So I'm excited about that and hope you guys join us. Jenny, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about launching today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait till Wednesday.
Woohoo! Me neither. It's going to be great. All right. I hope that that was helpful for you, whether you are launching a book, a podcast, a course, a website, whatever you're launching this year. Okay. We're almost, oh my gosh, you guys, we're almost halfway through 2017. How did this happen? So have you launched yet? I actually have a project I've been working on for almost, I don't know how long, at least since Piper was born. So, okay, like 7 or 8 months, I've been working on a project about launching. It's just a book, and I am really excited about this training from Jenny, which is really helpful. I've learned a lot from just hearing from her. And so I hope that you have some big takeaways as well. You can find the show notes for this episode by going to createifwriting.com/103 for episode 103. And you can find links to connect with Jenny there. But again, please join us for the live workshop this week. It's going to be Wednesday, the 24th of May. If you're listening later, you may have missed it. If it's past the Wednesday, obviously you've missed it. But it's going to be the 24th, and we are doing it at 9 a.m. Central Time. So 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Let's see if I can do the math for Pacific. 7 a.m. Pacific. A little early for you guys over on the West Coast. But do sign up. And I hope to see you. I guess I won't see you, but I hope to hear you there in the chat. But I'll be there manning the chat and asking my own questions to learn about launches in this masterclass on challenges. Okay, guys, thanks again for listening. A big thank you to Jasmine Commerce of JasmineCommerceMusic.com for the music for the show. And a very big thank you to Ambition Ally. Please check out the tools that they have, because I can tell you they will make your life easier. And you can go to ambitionally.com/Kirsten for those. Happy launching to you guys, and I hope you have an inspired week.